This meeting is being recorded.
All right, we're here on another episode of Whiskey Wednesdays. I'm here with Langley. Langley, how we doing?
We're doing good. Not much going on. Excited for our first podcast episode that we're streaming of Whiskey Wednesdays. Everybody check it out on my YouTube channel after this. It'll be posted in the link. But yeah, like I said, we're doing good. We're doing well. What do you want to inform me about today, Ed?
Let's see. So just watched my Pitt Panthers lose to Duke Blue Devils in basketball. Very frustrating game. They were up 43-32 at halftime, ended up losing by like 8 points. I think they made like 3 field goals, maybe a couple more, maybe like 5 field goals in the entire second half. What's so frustrating is when you get out hustled. Like Duke just clearly wanted it more in the second half. They're diving on loose balls. They're making hustle plays. Pitt's just not doing that. Like I can live with Pitt not being as talented as Duke. They have nowhere near the level of recruits that Duke has. But when you're getting out hustled by the more talented players, you have no shot. And it's also frustrating when Jeff Capel, Pitt's head coach, can't. He's a great recruiter. The lack of drawn up plays in the second half to get open baskets is insane. What's supposed to be a good year for us, so we come out 4-0 in the ACC. Now we've lost our last 2. It's just frustrating, but that's the life of a Pitt fan. I'm used to it by this point. So yeah, I mean that's my college hoops update for Pittsburgh. Yeah, as you can see, that's taken over my night, Langley. But your Clemson Tigers beat the Pitt Panthers this past Saturday, so that's a feather in your cap at least.
Oh yeah, and I totally care about that because Clemson's a basketball school. I can't even say that with a straight face. Out of the ACC is a basketball conference. I'm a Clemson fan, the one school in the conference that's really just a football school, maybe in Florida State. So I could care less if they beat Pitt in basketball, but good for them.
Yeah.
I will say, I always find it funny how people growing up in the South will always shit on the ACC for sports because college football is just like by far the biggest sport in the South, including the pros. I should say the pro levels of any sport. But I mean, like the ACC is the best basketball conference, hands down.
I mean, historically, no doubt about it. I know this year they're a little down, but historically, you look back, like, and with Duke and North Carolina for sure, like even like NC State in there.
Wake Forest, really good.
Yeah,
UVA, really good.
UVA is always so good. Now you have Syracuse, obviously one of the historic basketball programs. Yeah, I mean they're a basketball conference. Yeah, it's and it's been really bad for my Pitt Panthers since joining the AACC from the Big East. They've kind of gotten beaten up on by all the blue bloods of college basketball.
I mean, that's gonna happen. I will say one thing. I was talking with a few of my buddies from home today in our group chat. We were talking about the NIL deal, and they were basically, I kind of knew what it was, but they were informing me a little bit more and giving me the details of it. Now, I know that's been a huge thing for football. Do you think it's going to be a big thing for basketball? So I feel like maybe I'm just not following basketball that much recently, but I feel like I haven't heard too much about it. And I feel like the NIL could, for schools like a Pitt or someone who is traditionally not, I mean, actually Pitt's a really good basketball school traditionally, but like a school, we'll say like a Miami, right? Or in Oregon, a school is like traditionally not a basketball powerhouse. They have a deep pockets and they have a lot of NIL money. Do you think you could see that creating a little more parity in college basketball?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think what the NIL is going to do across the board is just like the rich get richer, basically. I think sort of, I guess, like you're saying, the schools with the deep pockets are just going to be the ones, for the most part, they're already the ones that are pretty good at basketball and football, and I think it's just going to stay that way because I think money attracts more money, and money is going to attract winningness. But on the flip side, I do see an opportunity where like teams that don't historically have those deep pockets, if you have one booster who wants to throw a lot of money at a program and like get some good recruits in a given year, he could go in and just buy a bunch of guys for 1 year and see where it goes. Whereas historically that couldn't be the case. So I think it could help little guys like that if you do have like some super rich booster.
Mhm.
What do you
I was
think?
gonna say, 'cause it seems like I know, obviously, like I said, I grew up in South Carolina and Charleston, and I'm a Clemson fan. A lot of my buddies are South Carolina fans, and we were talking about Jordan Birch, who's actually a guy. I think he was a 5-star D, and I think I played against him when I was a senior, and he was a freshman, or maybe I could be off by a year. I might have missed him by a year, but basically, he's been at Carolina the past couple of years, and then he just got like a $1.5 million deal with Oregon with NIL, which was absurd to me because I like had already forgotten who he was. And he's like a big guy locally. But I think it's kind of cool though, because at least, like I said, I'm a football oriented guy, but you see like Miami getting a top 5 recruiting class, Oregon's getting a shit ton of dudes in the transfer portal because of the money. And I think it can play into it going forward. I think it'll still be a lot of the big schools that traditionally have good programs, whether it be for football or basketball. But I think, like, it could break up Alabama and Georgia having the number 1 and number 2 recruiting classes every year. If you're, giving some kid $1 million who's 17, 18 years old. And like some of these programs are good, but not quite at that level, like Oregon, Miami, you could see them like switch up and make that jump soon.
Yeah, definitely. That'll be interesting to see. Like, I mean, say, for example, if like in Alabama doesn't do that well with NIL, but they have like the best coach in college football, like how those two things balance each other out,
Yeah.
versus like in Oregon with like, I think they have a relatively new coach, like Dan Lanning, like maybe their NIL is so good because they have Phil Knight and Nike throwing a bunch of money at them. But like, if their coach isn't as good, how do those two things compare? So I think it'll be interesting to see. But I was thinking in college basketball, what you're seeing is like you're seeing guys stay in college longer. So it used to be like one and done, now because guys can stay and make $1 million playing college basketball, they're staying for another year, being a college kid for one more year, getting to play on like big stages, having fun. And so like North Carolina went to the national championship last year and they brought back just about all their guys who were underclassmen, even though several of them could have gone to the NBA. So I think that's an interesting development that you're seeing in college basketball, is that guys are opting to stay longer rather than go chase money in the NBA.
Absolutely. And I kind of love that, honestly, because it used to be like you go back to like the 80s and 90s, and guys went to college and went there for at least like 2 or 3 years, usually. And a lot of guys stayed all 4 years up until like, I don't think the guys going straight out of high school to the league, correct me if I'm wrong, really started becoming a thing till the 2000s, the early 2000s, when you had like the Kevin Garnett's, LeBron's, Kobe's, or I guess the Kobe would have been late 90s, when guys are going straight from high school to the league. And then you had the era of the one and dones. And then now I think you're, seeing a lot of these guys that are deciding to stay longer because they're seeing a lot of these kids that went one and done, and they're like, oh shit, like only a quarter of these guys are actually steadily in the league, and then a lot of the other dudes are in the G League or they're on 10 days bouncing back and forth. And it's kind of like, yeah, especially it could be a big development with the NIL. It's like, can I stay in college, get paid in college, and then strengthen my chances by staying a couple more years, developing my game of becoming, a steady NBA player who stays on the roster, as opposed to 1 year college, I want the bag, going to the NBA, and maybe you're not ready yet.
Yeah. I completely agree. It'll be interesting to see. I know I keep going back to my Pitt Panthers. I don't think they're the strongest team in terms of NIL. but we've done pretty well in the portal so far, and that's just attracting a lot of guys back to Pittsburgh, like local
Right.
kids who left, went to the SEC or a Notre Dame out of high school, and then didn't do great there, or didn't get a real lot of opportunities. Now they're transferring back to Pitt. So it's not necessarily NIL based, but just because Pitt's built a pretty good football program. So yeah, we'll see. But Langley, I know you said with work you haven't been doing much. What is one thing you would like to do, or that? Let me rephrase this. What is the best way you could spend your week of not doing anything at work? What's the ideal way you would spend it?
Well, I'm obviously in a bit of a slow period with work. And for anyone else who is a fellow degenerate and slacker, I would say the best way to spend your week is to buy a putting green for your apartment and then just sit there and drink beer and putt all day. Because it's basically retirement, but you bring retirement up like 40 years. And that's the best way to do it.
Dude, and it's basically like working on your business skills too, because you have to go out play golf, make
Yeah.
some deals on the golf course. So you are working on your business acumen while you're doing that.
I mean, that's true. That's one of the first things they teach you when you get an MBA from Harvard or Wharton or Stanford is that if you can't hit a 7-foot putt to close a deal, then you've got no shot in life. And you got to learn how to handle your alcohol too. So there's that.
That's true, yeah. So grab a handle of whiskey or a 30 rack of Natty Light, plop it down, and start stroking some putts.
Absolutely. And pro tip on this. CVS has probably the best deal, especially if you're a young professional living in a big city. I'm in Los Angeles, Ed. I know you're in New York. CVS 30 rack of Natty Ice for $23, including tax. Best deal you're going to get in a big city. And Natty Ices they'll make your putts a little more wobbly, so it's good practice.
What are they? They're like 5.9%, I think. So
Yeah, they're like 6% or something like that.
yeah, it's great bang for your buck. That's like 1.5 beers per can.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And if you're a small guy like myself, then madam, you're perfect.
Dude, that was do you remember when we were freshmen in college? So for those of you who don't know, Langley and I went to college together. We were in the same fraternity. That's all we drank at Deke, like our freshman sophomore year was Natty Ice.
Dude, absolutely. And Natty Light a good bit too. Natty franchise has it going on. I mean, my grandpa, who's like, God knows, like 12,000 now, he still drinks Natty Light like every day. And he sits
Yeah.
down and he watches the Nationals in the summer and pounds like 5 Natty Lights. I'm like, you know what? Get old, never grow up. That's exactly how you want to do it, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I think that kind of made me like what's the word I'm looking for? That made me able to drink like any kind of beer, I think, because Natty Ice just isn't that good, but I just got used to it. And then it's like nothing phases me in terms of beer. Like I don't consider anything like a bad beer.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. And maybe I'm just not picky, but I feel like we're probably both not picky as a result of that. And a lot of guys that were in fraternities and went out a good bit in college can probably relate. Yeah, Natty Ice CVS, $23. Thank me later. In all seriousness, though, if you have a lot of free time with work, if you're in a deal, and things are slow, take a little bit of classes, do some reading, help out any way you can with your bosses, and then putt and drink. Don't just putt and drink. Let's be real here, folks.
Save that for the afternoon.
Save that for the after. Do about an hour and a half of real good work once you wake up at 11 o'clock, and then go put, God damn it. And then go putt and drink.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, work kind of sucks. I don't know about you, Langley, but I feel like getting into the real world, starting to work, it's like damn, I have to wake up every morning and go do the same job 5 days a week. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I feel like I thought it'd be a lot more exciting, but I feel like so far being adults is pretty, I guess it's good. You find stability, but it's also you just wake up, do the same thing every day.
Yeah, no, and that's why you quit your job and you putt and you drink natty ice.
Hey, I
And
will
then
say,
just find a way to support yourself.
wait, I'll give you a shout out. Talk about instead of just the monotonous grind of work, out of college, you decided to send it and go to LA and try to work in the industry, as they call it over there. So you
Oh
took
yeah.
a chance with it. So what's that experience been like?
Yeah, so that experience, it was interesting. So I had always thought about working in the entertainment industry, be it acting, writing, producing, just doing something in showbiz. I'd always kind of been captivated by it, like a lot of people. And I was very naive. Took a few acting classes in college as electives, filmmaking class. It's actually in the theater club. Don't even know if I told you, but I auditioned for a few plays. Didn't get any roles, which was a bad sign to start with. Decided, fuck it, I'm still really interested in it. And I do not want to go get a job at a big consulting firm like Ed and work my ass off. I want to go to Hollywood and see what happens. And so this is exactly what I did. And let me tell you, Hollywood, another tip from the top with the $23 Natty Ice 30 rack. Hollywood is not as nice as people think it is. When you think of Hollywood, you think of actors and actresses. And then when you actually, and the bright lights, millions of dollars, movies, fame, all the good shit. And then you actually go to Hollywood, California. I live in West Hollywood, which is nicer. Hollywood, California is a suburb of LA that, you are more likely to find a heroin needle walking down the street than you are, I don't know, Brad Pitt. It is kind of a rundown, dumpy little area, but it's where a lot of people go that are trying to get a little bit of a cheaper rent and make it in this.
It's in Hollywood. That's where like the stars are, right?
Yeah, the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Yeah.
Well, I should say, okay, not all of it's dumpy and bad. Sounding a little pretentious right now as I'm listening to myself here, but there are definitely some parts where I've gone out to party in Hollywood. It's just like, whoa.
Yeah.
But yeah, to your point, I don't know how I went on that rant, but yeah, came out to LA, did the usual thing, worked on a couple scripts while I was, well, for most people, they wait tables. I worked as a barista, drove DoorDash, just did a bunch of odd jobs to make things meet until did some like production assistant work until eventually I got full-time gig working for a management and production company. Before I came to kind of the reality, broke out of my naiveness a little bit of what I expected the entertainment industry to be, with the reality of making minimum wage and trying to live on that in an expensive city. And so I still do a little bit, on the side with some writing and some, creative assets. I don't even know what I'm saying. Some creative stuff that I would like to pursue potentially. But yeah, I got a job in finance, similar to Ed over here. And now we're doing finance in LA, which was unexpected.
But that's what and I know we talked a lot about this when you were deciding whether to do this or not, but one thing I give you so much credit for is you just sent it. And now you'll never look back and think oh, I wonder what if, I wonder what it's like. I wonder if I could have made it. You know what the experience is like, and you know what it's like out in LA. You know what it's like working in the entertainment industry. And I feel like you'll always be able to put your head on the pillow and know you gave it your best effort, whether your show you're writing on the side ever takes off or not. You'll know that you worked in the industry, you did everything, which I think is such a cool thing to look back on and know.
Oh yeah, I'm very glad I did it. I think my other alternative would have been getting some kind of banking or analyst job right out of college and working 14 hours a day in a cubicle in New York. And I'm very glad I didn't do that when I was 22, and I waited till I was 25 and a few years older and less wanting to do it for the long hours. But yeah, I think it was cool to do. definitely. I mean, it depends on the personality. Don't know if I would recommend it for everyone, but the entertainment industry can be really cool. Probably at the end of the day, wasn't the best for me, but you live and you learn. And I am glad I did it, and I am glad that I was not sarcastically just said that, but I am actually really glad I was not just like 14, 15 hours a day in a cubicle right out of college.
Mhm. Dude, that's what like, I mean, what I saw even is with COVID is like, it's not only are you 14, 15 hours in the cubicle, you're 14, 15 hours just like remote in your little apartment anyways, like not getting any human interaction. Um,
Mhm.
which I feel like is even worse. Because at least if you're working 14, 15 hours in an office with people, you're building relationships with people, you're hanging out, you're getting to know people, you're networking. Um, where now it's like, or
Right, right.
like less so now, but like right after COVID, it was like you're working those same hours, but not getting any of those relationship building opportunities, any of those networking opportunities. And like I would just roll out of bed and put sweatpants and a sweatshirt on, get on my desk in my little room and start working. Um, and so I feel like you I guess sort of lucked out in the sense that like, you made the right decision given COVID, but being able to, be out running around Hollywood. I know you said you would like drop off scripts and stuff and do everything like that. I feel like that's something cool rather than, yeah, just sitting in your apartment all day while staring at a computer screen.
Yeah, it's definitely cool stories and experiences that I'll have for the rest of my life. I know it's actually funny that you mention dropping off scripts, because I would always think when I would go to take scripts to different clients, I'm like, what are the chances this guy actually reads it? Like I would have to like text people multiple times, be like, hey, like, you come by for the script so that you can do like this self tape or this audition. And then like I would, unless they sent me the video back to then screen for my manager and send into casting, like I would have no idea if they even got it. Because
Yeah.
like it's funny, like a lot of the actors that I worked with were actually like nice people. I liked them a lot. Which is like good because like some actors in Hollywood can be total headaches, which is, I mean, I guess kind of obvious. It's common knowledge. But yeah, it's funny because at first I thought, I was on the representation side mostly in management and agency work, and I was kind of under the impression, like, yeah, that's just like a free 10%. Like you rep somebody and you just collect whatever
Mhm.
10% is of what they're making. And you don't really have to do too much work. And that's not the case, because you do need to stay on top of these people, especially if you have like younger people that are working other jobs. Like I'd have to send plenty of texts to people like, hey, did you get the script that I dropped off? Like,
Mhm.
remember the self tape deadline, or your audition is at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Like, don't forget, you've got a car coming to pick you up at this time. It's actually kind of funny. A lot of logistical work that, quite honestly, I was not very good at, but hey, made me better at something, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Give you an opportunity to work on it.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's yeah, and that's why I think I get back to the point like, and then you get to see how the sausage is made, right? And that allows you to make a more informed decision about what you want to do long term for your career.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, and like I'm still at a point at, barely 25 years old where I obviously still don't totally have it figured out. But like from my personal experience, like regardless of where my career ends up going and how successful I am, like I don't think I would tell anyone to just be like closed-minded and know you're going into a certain field right out of college. So I
Hmm.
think there's so much that you still have to like learn about yourself and like the real world and everything. And like your career, like a lot of people don't get it, but like knock on wood, barring like, neither one of us or anyone our age, hopefully like doesn't get sick or like in an accident or something, like you're gonna be doing this for the next 40 plus years of your life,
Hmm.
even once you hit like your mid 20s. So it's like, figuring it out, right? And you're like, oh, like I'm in this stage where I'm bored right now with my career. And like, I thought it was gonna be like a little more fun. Then, like maybe it's like, okay, it's a good experience and you can make a lateral move, or you can go to like a different industry and find something more that you like. Cause at the end of the
Hmm.
day, I think you gotta have some kind of passion about what you do if you're gonna really make it work. Yeah.
Hmm. Absolutely. And that's what's so tough is like balancing, obviously, making money versus like doing something you're really passionate about. And obviously, you want to find a good middle ground there. Um, but like you said, you worked in entertainment. I interned in sports, and it's like to do those full time, it's like you don't make very much money, especially when you're our age. And
Oh yeah.
so it's really hard to come out in college and do that. As you rise up the ranks, you obviously can make much better money. But that's such a like hard tightrope to walk as well. Is like how much money do I want to make now versus like can I afford to do what I love now and hopefully it pays off in the future. So that's just like you were saying, it's just tough decisions that you have to make, but you also don't really know what you want to do forever at this stage in our lives.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's definitely a process of figuring it out. In the meantime, you just keep working or not really working if you're me right now, and watching your favorite sports team and drinking beer, and it'll all work out okay.
Exactly. Exactly.
You want to know? I used to get anxious about it. I will say we got about a minute and a half here left in our podcast. I will say I have started meditating, and I think it's done like wonders for me.
Really?
I do like a 15 to 20-minute meditation session every day, which like I would have punched myself in the face. Like 21-year-old me would have punched me in the face right now. I've been like, that's the most like West Coast, just like doesn't give a fuck shit. Like, what's really changed my life is fucking impossible me meditating. But it like made me like so much more like zen and chill. And I feel like I'm like, I can like make decisions like this with a much clearer head.
Dude, I love that. I tried the meditation. I don't know how well it worked for me, but I like journaling. I'm a big fan of journaling. I think just getting your thoughts down on the page is really helpful. And I feel like for me, and it's like all the like rapid thoughts that you probably slow down through meditation. I like just like getting them out on the page, and I feel like that helps clear it out for me. Yeah, but look at us. If you would have told me as 18-year-olds that we'd be meditating and journaling and doing these things, I'd say you're crazy. But here we are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, closing thoughts here, Ed. Sorry about your Pitt Panthers. They'll get them next time. I know that's what we opened up with. What are you looking forward to on the next podcast here?
On the next podcast, I'm looking forward to